Let's explain survivorship bias with a simple example. Imagine you're looking at a used car lot. All the cars there seem to be in great shape, running well for their age. You might think, wow, this brand makes really reliable cars. But here's what you're missing. You're only seeing the cars that have survived long enough to make it to the used lot. All the cars that broke down or were junked aren't there for you to see. That's survivorship bias in a nutshell. We tend to focus on the survivors, the success stories, the winners, the ones who made it, while completely ignoring all the failures. It's like only paying attention to lottery winners and thinking, hey, this looks like a great way to get rich. But why survivorship? The term comes from a fascinating story in World War II. Researchers were trying to figure out how to better protect planes from enemy fire. They looked at returning aircraft and noticed patterns in where they were hit. Their first instinct was to add armor to these areas. But a clever statistician pointed out a crucial flaw. They were only looking at the planes that survived. The ones that didn't make it back were the real key to understanding vulnerability. This bias messes with our thinking in some pretty sneaky ways. It makes us see patterns that aren't really there. It creates unrealistic expectations about success. And worst of all, it can lead us to make really bad decisions based on incomplete information. Is survivorship bias always bad? Not necessarily. Sometimes focusing on successes can be motivating, but when we're unaware of it, that's when it becomes dangerous. It's like wearing blinders. You might feel confident about where you're going, but you're missing a big part of the picture. Here's the thing. Once you understand survivorship bias, you start seeing it everywhere. It's in those "how I made $1 million" stories that conveniently leave out the hundreds who tried the same thing and failed. It's in fitness transformations that don't mention the people who quit. It's even in history books that focus on empires that lasted, ignoring the ones that collapsed quickly. Here's the good news. Awareness is like a superpower. Once you can spot survivorship bias, you can start asking better questions. You can look for the missing pieces of the puzzle, and most importantly, you can make decisions based on a much more complete and realistic view of the world. So the next time someone tells you about a foolproof path to success, remember, you might only be seeing the targets with bullet holes. The real story is often in what's missing. Now that we understand what survivorship bias is, let's talk about why it's so dangerous. I call it the silent killer of good decisions, and for good reason. Our brains are wired to focus on success. It's natural and often motivating. But when it comes to making important choices, this instinct can lead us astray in some pretty sneaky ways. Imagine you're thinking about starting a restaurant. You look around and see thriving eateries everywhere. How hard can it be, you might think? But here's what you're not seeing: the countless restaurants that failed and disappeared. Studies show that up to 60% of restaurants don't make it past their first 3 years. That's the data survivorship bias hides from you. Or consider investing. It's easy to look at a stock that's soared over the past decade and think, if only I'd bought that. But for every Apple or Amazon, there are dozens of companies that seemed promising but fizzled out. When we only focus on the winners, we get a distorted view of risk and potential returns. Even smart, successful people fall for this trap. Why? Because survivorship bias often works hand in hand with confirmation bias. We tend to seek out information that supports our existing beliefs or desires. So if you want to believe in a get-rich-quick scheme, You'll naturally focus on the few success stories while ignoring the sea of failures. The cost of this mental blind spot can be huge. In business, it might lead you to pursue a flawed strategy because you're only looking at companies that succeeded with it. In your career, it could cause you to overestimate your chances in a competitive field. And in personal finance, it might push you towards risky investments based on incomplete data. So how do we protect ourselves? The first step is simply being aware. Once you know about survivorship bias, you'll start spotting it everywhere. But awareness alone isn't enough. We need to actively seek out the non-survivor data. What happened to the businesses that failed? Why did seemingly promising investments tank? Here's a powerful question to ask yourself when making decisions. What am I not seeing? This simple prompt can reveal crucial insights hidden by survivorship bias. Remember, the goal isn't to become pessimistic. It's about seeing the full picture so you can make truly informed choices. By understanding both successes and failures, you'll be able to navigate risks more effectively and set realistic expectations. In our next section, we'll look at some of the most common examples of survivorship bias in action. Trust me, once you see these, you'll never look at success stories the same way again. Alright, so let's count down our top 10 examples of survivorship bias. These are the sneaky mental traps that might be influencing your decisions right now. Number 10. The dropout billionaire. Myth. We've all heard stories about tech billionaires who dropped out of college. But for every Mark Zuckerberg, there are thousands of dropouts who didn't strike it rich. The survivors get the spotlight, skewing our perception of the risks. Number 9. Best-selling books. Walk into any bookstore, and you're surrounded by success stories. But what about the countless manuscripts that never made it to print? The publishing industry is brutal, but survivorship bias makes it look deceptively achievable. Number 8. Viral social media posts. Ever wonder why your posts don't get the same traction as those viral sensations? Remember, you're only seeing the tiny fraction that went viral, not the millions that disappeared into the digital void. Number 7. Miracle diets. Those before and after photos are compelling, aren't they? But they don't show the people who tried and gave up, or worse, suffered health consequences. The success stories survive, creating unrealistic expectations. Number 6. Successful investors. The finance world loves to celebrate its stars. But for every Warren Buffett, there are countless investors who lost big. Focusing only on the winners can lead to dangerously overconfident investing strategies. Number 5. Ancient buildings. Look at those beautiful old structures that have stood for centuries. But we're forgetting about all the buildings that collapsed or were torn down. This skews our perception of historical architecture and engineering. Number 4. Career advice from CEOs. When a famous CEO shares their path to success, it's tempting to follow their blueprint. But their unique circumstances and luck often play a bigger role than they admit. What worked for them might not work for you. Number 3. Academic research. And now, the mind-blowing one. Academic research. Yes, even science falls prey to survivorship bias. Studies with positive results are far more likely to be published than those with negative findings. This publication bias can skew entire fields of research, leading to overly optimistic views of certain treatments or theories. Number 2. Startup success stories. The media loves to tout overnight successes, but they often ignore the years of struggle and failed attempts. This creates a distorted view of entrepreneurship that can lead to poor business decisions. Number 1. Your own life experiences. This might be the most personal and impactful example. We tend to remember our successes and forget our failures. This can lead to overconfidence and poor self-assessment of our own abilities and luck. So, what do all these examples teach us? Survivorship bias is everywhere, subtly shaping our perceptions and decisions. The key is to always ask, what am I not seeing? Look for the missing data, the untold stories of failure. By understanding these biases, you're already ahead of the game. You can make more balanced decisions, set realistic expectations, and avoid the pitfalls that trap so many others. In our next section, we'll dive into specific strategies for spotting and countering survivorship bias in your own life. Get ready to see the world with clearer eyes. Now that we've seen how pervasive survivorship bias can be, let's arm ourselves with some powerful tools to spot and avoid this mental trap. These strategies will sharpen your critical thinking and give you a major edge in decision-making. First, always look for what's missing. When you hear a success story, ask yourself, what about the failures? This simple question can reveal crucial insights. For example, if someone tells you about a friend who made a fortune in cryptocurrency, ask about others who invested and lost money. The full picture is often more complex than it first appears. Next, actively seek out failure stories. They're often more informative than successes. Why? Because failures reveal pitfalls and challenges that survivors might have simply been lucky to avoid. When researching a business idea, don't just look at thriving companies. Dig into why similar ventures failed. You'll gain invaluable insights that the success stories alone won't provide. Here's a powerful mental model: the base rate. Instead of focusing on exceptional cases, consider the overall probability of success in a given field. If you're thinking about becoming an actor, don't just look at Hollywood stars. Research the percentage of actors who actually make a living from their craft. This broader perspective will help you set realistic expectations. Be especially skeptical of extreme success stories. Often, factors like luck, timing, or unique circumstances play a bigger role than people admit. When you hear about a self-made millionaire, dig deeper. You might find advantages or lucky breaks that aren't immediately obvious. Now, here's a strategy that might surprise you. Actively search for information that contradicts your beliefs. If you think a particular business strategy is foolproof, challenge yourself to find examples where it didn't work. This habit of seeking counterexamples will make your thinking more robust and less susceptible to bias. Remember, large samples are more reliable than individual stories. Anecdotes can be powerful, but they're often misleading. Whenever possible, look for comprehensive data or meta-analyses that give you a broader view of a situation. Finally, and this might be the most powerful tip of all, be aware of your own cognitive biases. We're all susceptible to wanting to believe in straightforward paths to success. Recognizing this tendency in yourself will make you much better at spotting survivorship bias in the wild. By applying these strategies, you'll develop a kind of X-ray vision for hidden biases. You'll make decisions based on more complete information, set more realistic goals, and avoid the pitfalls that trap so many others. In our final section, we'll explore how this new perspective can become your secret weapon in business, investing, and life. Get ready to see the world with clearer eyes than ever before. Congratulations! You've just unlocked a superpower that most people don't even know exists. By understanding survivorship bias, you're now equipped to see the world in a way that gives you a massive advantage in almost every area of life. Think of it like putting on a pair of special glasses. Suddenly, you can see things that were invisible before. Those success stories that used to seem so simple and straightforward. Now you can spot the hidden factors, the luck, and the unique circumstances that others miss. But this isn't just about being skeptical. It's about seeing opportunities that others overlook. While everyone else is chasing the latest guaranteed success formula, you'll be able to identify undervalued strategies and ideas that have real potential. In business, this means you'll make smarter decisions about which ventures to pursue. You won't be fooled by flashy success stories, but you also won't be paralyzed by fear of failure. Instead, you'll have a realistic understanding of risks and potential rewards. For investors, this superpower is like having X-ray vision. You'll see beyond the hype of hot stocks or investment strategies. By understanding the full picture, successes and failures, you'll be able to make more balanced, informed choices with your money. But perhaps the most powerful impact is on your personal goals and expectations. No more beating yourself up for not achieving overnight success. You now understand that those stories are often misleading. Instead, you can set realistic, achievable goals based on a clear-eyed view of what's possible. This doesn't mean becoming pessimistic. Far from it. You'll actually become more resilient. When you face setbacks, you'll understand they're a normal part of any journey, not a sign that you're doomed to fail. Here's where it gets really exciting. As you practice using this superpower, you'll develop an almost uncanny ability to spot trends and patterns that others miss. In a world overwhelmed with information, this skill is invaluable. Imagine walking into a meeting and being able to cut through the hype and see the real potential or pitfalls of a proposal. Or having the confidence to pursue an unconventional idea because you can see past the conventional wisdom that's blinded by survivorship bias. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility. Use this superpower to help others, to make more ethical decisions, and to create value in the world. Don't use it to become cynical or to discount the hard work of others. The more you practice spotting and countering survivorship bias, the stronger this superpower becomes. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Soon, you'll find yourself automatically asking the right questions, seeking out missing information, and making decisions with a level of clarity that will amaze you. So go forth and use your new superpower. See the world more clearly, make smarter choices, and achieve success on your own terms, all while avoiding the mental traps that ensnare so many others. Welcome to your new, clearer reality.